All right, guys. Well, thanks for popping in here. I figured we could get a couple different people surrounding the industry in a couple different professions and all experts in your own right. So just wanted to have a quick chat and roundtable discussion on a pulse check of where the market's at, what's going on. Are we still buying and selling? Can you buy and sell? Are people interested? And, everything in between. So I know you're getting a lot of questions from myself and Tate and everyone in the real estate industry, but everyone outside doesn't really know. So we've got Tate, who's a realtor with me at Hall & Hunter, Kelly at Equity Title / Devon, who's a closer and all things awesome, and then Jay, Jay Master, certified inspector, and then Chase at Lake Michigan Credit Union, who does everything with money and then some. So, how are you guys?
Good.
So I wanted to kind of get it kicked off. I know I've been getting a lot of calls and having conversations with my clients, but obviously touching base with you all as well. First off, when I talk to a client, one of the first questions they're always asking me when we're talking about housing is money. And that's what I go back to them with and say, get your finances in order. So in this market, really, I'll throw it to you, Chase. Where are we sitting on rates? Is it possible to get a loan? Are you guys up and running? What's going on?
Nothing. We're business as usual for the time being. We've seen a lot of new stuff coming, especially in regards to appraisals, because we don't know exactly what that means yet for the market. Fannie and Freddie has made a lot of really important updates over the last couple of weeks. I was going to pull those up here in a minute. As far as what appraisals mean. We've had a lot of property inspection waivers for good down payments, even for some 5-10% downs. I've seen a few property inspection waivers on purchases. Fannie's also allowing for a lot of exterior only appraisals, which is really important in this market because it puts us in an awkward spot. We have somebody going out to the home, giving us their opinion of value. Do we want them inside the home? Are there current people living in the home? Public safety issues. So that's been the biggest obstacle. Mortgage rates are still very good and competitive currently. We've seen a lot of fluctuation though. The bond markets is no different than the stock market. I've seen days as low as 3.25 and as high as 4.6 all in the last 2 weeks. So major swings in rates. It's hard to tell people where they're going to be when they're getting ready to lock in a rate and buy a home because we have to have a property picked out to do that.
Yeah. Have you seen in the past, since Tuesday when everything kind of went on lockdown, have you seen many people applying for loans and actually starting the process?
I've only done two pre-quals since Tuesday, which is a pretty light week. I feel like I usually do at least one a day, especially right now, if not two a day, because this is your spring buying season, right? People are getting their financing or getting pre-qualified. I do a lot of construction lending too, and I've seen a lot of pullback on construction currently also because there's no start date, jobs are delayed, people are uncertain of their finances. So definitely customer sentiment of buying or selling feels like it's dwindled a little bit in the last week.
Sure.
Is construction considered an essential? I frankly have not had a whole lot of time to research what's essential and not essential because I'm crazy every day, naturally and professionally, by the way. But so I don't know, I'm seeing construction happening in my neighborhood and I'm seeing people working on new construction. So I'm assuming that they are a critical or an essential industry.
Yeah. If I can jump in real quick, I'm actually getting that question a lot from a couple different municipalities, folks asking me. And so this is something that I have at the ready constantly. The FAQ from Michigan, according to the executive order. And one of those questions is specifically, is construction allowed under the executive order? And the answer is some limited forms of construction are permissible, including construction to maintain and improve roads, bridges, telecommunications infrastructure, and public health infrastructure. Construction workers may also undertake projects that are necessary to maintain and improve the safety, sanitation, and essential operations of a residence. Cosmetic and non-emergency maintenance and improvements to residences are not permitted under this order. All construction work that's carried out while the order is in effect must be done in accordance with the mitigation measures required, which is the standard 6 foot, social distancing.
So
Right.
they're, according to the state of Michigan, they're letting things move forward here, because I think that there would be a huge task to let those items sit, or let things just deteriorate and start falling apart without continuing moving forward with new construction. So
That would make sense. You can build a house, but you can't redo your bathroom.
yeah, essentially.
That's fair.
And the thing I heard from at least two of my builders, they have ceased construction on all projects temporarily, only unless the project is in a state that it cannot be let. So if it's framed in and the roof's on, they're not getting installation. They're not doing rough plumbing. They're not doing HVAC. But if it's exposed lumber that could get weathered or ruined, then they have to continue the project. That's what my builders, and I work with about 6 different builders, and none of them are actually, 2 of them have jobs sort of going. They're waiting for the roof to get put on, because there was plywood put on there, but no shingles or
Right.
Yeah.
stuff that can be detrimental to the structure of the home. Yes, continue, get it done, get it sealed, get it wherever it needs to be, and then stop. That's the direction at least I've heard from a couple people.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hearing as well. I mean, if it's in a state of flux where things are going to start falling apart, that's at what point we get it to a standard of we can leave it for a period of time, and nothing's going to, get worse by letting it sit for a few weeks.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, last thing you want is something to happen to the property just because you could have done an extra day or 2 work. But from like a market standpoint, though, I know, Tate, you go out and you do a lot of showings with buyers and sellers, and viewing properties all day, every day. Have you had people coming to you saying, hey, I know that this is kind of in place, but can we still go out and see a house, or can we still hold a house open and whatnot? What are you hearing on your side?
Not necessarily. I mean, the news is out there. Everybody's reading the same stuff. We know we can't be, within, I think it's 6 feet of each other. To stay safe. People are still looking. They understand we're, having to put everything on a bit of a hold. But I mean, the interest is still there. But at this point, it's just everybody understands, hey, it's just pictures for now. Hopefully we can do this physically soon. So, the interest is there. The market is still hot. So
that's what I'm seeing, at least in my shoes, and kind of why I wanted to get all of us together to chat about this a little bit, because the 5 of us, if I can count correctly, we have deals going on all together as we speak. I know Jay got back from an inspection for a client of mine who is getting his loan serviced by Chase. So it's different. The market has shifted, but I think that's why we have to have the conversations with our clients of, hey, buyer, yes, it's not the easiest or probably most comfortable thing to do here, but you can still put an offer in on a house, get under contract, even without ever seeing it, because certain people are still allowed and deemed necessary to physically be in a property. And I know, Jay, you're one of them as an inspector. So, and with your reports and how thorough everything is, you get to see everything, in person, in a sense, through the report and in between. So things are still happening, at least on my end. It's just kind of different. So what, guidelines or conversations are you guys having? I'll start with you, Jay, on, talking to clients about an inspection or about how it might be changing right now.
Yeah. So, it is still kind of business as usual for the most part, from an inspection standpoint. It was a couple years ago that it really kind of became commonplace where folks just wouldn't be at the inspection. And that, I think that there was a lot of investment property buying that was going on. So people from out of state or maybe even out of the country that were buying property, nobody would essentially be at the inspection. So that's become more and more commonplace over the years. And then even in the past few years, it's really become common. So from my end of things, it is pretty normal that nobody's really there. There's technology and thank goodness for it that allows a buyer to see a home through my eyes, kind of, when I prepare an inspection report. And a lot of that has to do with 360-degree photography, where each and every room and area of the house and the roof and the exterior, you get to see all of these things, because in your inspection report, you can click on the photo and then you can spin them around and you can zoom in on stuff and see everything just the same way you would as if you were there. So that's helping a lot. That's kind of quelling some fears and kind of making people feel a little bit more easy about the fact that they just can't be at their inspection. So from the standpoint of not being there, I don't know that it changes much. We're making arrangements with folks if they have questions about their inspections after the fact. And I've always done that, though, to make sure folks know that, hey, you can reach back out to me. You can ask me the questions. I'm happy to answer them and things like that. From the industry and legal standpoint, the industry, our figurehead are the largest association of home inspectors in the world. Internachi, the founder of that association, Nick Gromyko, he came out, a while back, even before the stay-at-home order was issued. And he said, hey, from a standpoint of safety, inspectors are essential. And then it wasn't too long after that Michigan came out and they went ahead and said, hey, somebody had asked the question about specifically under Michigan law, and it did say under the order, critical infrastructure workers include workers who provide services that are necessary to maintaining the safety, sanitation, and essential operation of residences. And we fall directly under that category. So it was pretty clear cut that we could still continue to operate, but things are still moving forward. Inspections are getting done. You'll always have your inspection report on the same day because, I know lots of times we don't have a lot of time to review those things, but things are still going.
Good. No, and that's a good call. It's funny how many conversations I'm having with other agents, not just in, the general marketplace, and from direct other local brokerages that they're like, well, you can't sell a house right now. It's like, well, no, you can. Everybody else outside of the realtors and buyers and sellers are still up and running. Yeah. And it's funky and it's different, but there's different ways to do it. I'm having to have conversations with buyers. All right, if I have a buyer and they're interested in a home that's currently occupied, let me reach out to the listing agent, get on a, 4-way FaceTime call between buyer, myself, listing agent, and sellers, and have the sellers, walk us through the house kind of. It's different, but if somebody is, willing to jump that hurdle, or if they're in a need to buy and sell, then, let's do it. And we can make it work as best as possible.
It just makes the communication better as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Well, and it makes your buyers and sellers getting back to sort of the old school way of doing real estate where they're a lot more involved, because that's essential to their life. So while real estate is sort of on the bench right now as a non-essential, I think you have to leverage your relationships with your essential industry partners to help you facilitate those transactions. So yeah, your home inspector, what jumps to my mind is that person, it needs to work hand in hand almost. They're giving the interior opinion of the property and your appraiser is giving the exterior opinion of the property. So that's where your two critical industry or your essential industry work. You got to leverage those relationships to really help you get a good idea of, obviously we can't be talking to the appraisers, but have a good idea of the status of the house if buyers can't get in to take a look.
Yeah, I think so. I've had a lot of clients buy homes sight unseen, and not just investors and builders, but people that, are transferring, relocating, and it's a different way to go about it, but it's doable, and it's not, the end of the world. And so, kind of circling them with the trusted networks that we can bring, between inspector, appraiser, or not appraiser, loan officer, title companies, everybody and anybody. That's just the trust factor that I think we all can bring to the table to, still best serve the clients at the end of the day. So, it's interesting. We all don't really know how long this is going to last. We all probably think that it's longer than, what we're hearing. So if that's the case, we need to start having more of these conversations with our clients and offering, hey, listen, if this is the new norm for a bit, we got to get used to it and, figure this out. So, I'm curious on, Kelly, has there been any closing extensions or delays because of any of this, or is it
not really? So it's been psychotic, to put it just straightforward. In the effort to comply with the stay-at-home or the shelter-in-place order and limit the number of people in a workspace and shift people off site, our daily operations in terms of how we do business has not changed. How you perceive we service you as a client. So you're still sending in your order. It's still going in. We're still doing the searches to the best of our ability. Obviously, we don't have access to certain things because of closures at county registers and municipalities. So, you know, we've had to go in a really creative direction to shift as many people off site. I'm doing all kinds of things that I've never done on the title side before, but at the end of the day, I'm thankful for my lending background and you know, experience in the business. But like, for example, I mean, one of the things we had to do immediately was figure out how are we going to cover the gap in recording dates, because there's no recording happening right now. So how, you know, what do we do? What risk do we assume? And what risk do we put on a seller on an owner's policy? So we've reached out and talked with our underwriters, and our underwriters are ensuring the gap from the last available later date until the first available recording date. And as a closer, when we're having, you know, sellers and buyers, and even people refinancing, they're signing an indemnity agreement and an affidavit acknowledging that our underwriters are ensuring the gap. And we're basically asking sellers and borrowers to kind of not do anything else on title until we can get back to the point where we can update our most recent recording dates. So those things are in place. But then also trying to minimize exposure and risk. So, you know, we've gone into a full on, we are only closing in our own offices or a secured location where we know we can clean the space. And we are doing almost every closing is a true split closing now, because all of us, you know, where we've all, I think, over the years complained about split closings, now more than ever, it's almost a godsend, because you are limiting the number of people that are in a room. I mean, frankly, in a work environment, we can only have 5 people in a room. So, you know, our clients and our partners have been wonderful. You know, I know it's hard for you guys as buyer's agents or even seller's agents to not be at the closing for your client. But we as closers appreciate that your willingness to not come. Chase, your willingness to not come to a closing, because, you know, one less person in the room makes me feel better about what I'm bringing home every day. So it's those things. It's really securing the closing environment. So
do you see it shifting at all to possibly like full online
yes,
notarization?
it's already starting to happen.
Because I know that's been out there in the marketplace in other spots of the country, but go figure.
Right. So, you know, Michigan is a wet signature state. And so you know, everybody, I mean, like I said, a joke, this is kind of a joke, but I've had so many people ask me, why are you not doing full on electronic closings? And my answer to that is, you know, we're working toward that. Chase, you guys hear about this all the time. We're moving in that direction, but we can't make government work faster than they do. And there's platforms that have to be available in order to execute those types of closings. Notaries all have to enhance their notary approval to become e-notaries, and then you have to be approved to be an e-notary for the platforms that you may be closing on. So it's not one universal platform. Like, I just did my e-notary application yesterday, and I put down 5 different platforms, because we don't know, all the lenders may not use the same platform. And so it's making sure that we have enough available platforms and enough available notaries, and the speediness of the state approving those e-notaries. Now, as recently as this afternoon, Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, and one other county are in the process of accepting electronically signed recordable documents. Now, that doesn't mean that Monday I can e-sign a mortgage for a purchase closing where Chase is doing the loan. That means that the counties are recognizing an urgent need to get some legislation through quickly to allow for this during this shelter at home and the COVID crisis, but we also have to be diligent to make sure that all parties involved are protected. So we are hand in hand working with who we have to work with to get there.
Yeah.
Now, I can tell you that some lenders, I did a few commercial closings yesterday for a credit union that sent all of the non-notarized documents to their borrower ahead of time to e-sign. And that borrower came in to sign on 3 mortgages, and all he was signed, and he reviewed the mortgages, the notes, the details. So literally 30 minutes is all it took me to sign 3 commercial transactions, because he was only just making sure it looked the same as what he reviewed and signing. So in that regard, you know, some of our lenders are really stepping forward and allowing for the electronic signing of the non-recordables or the non-notarized documents to help decrease the amount of time in the closing room.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's kind of where we're at. But I mean, it's a funky situation. I mean, we have such strict protocols in place right now. We have the rooms get cleaned before and after every closing.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's, you know, we need to protect ourselves, but we also need to protect your clients.
Right.
So it's weird. And we also have to, each client, that each person, buyer, seller, borrower, whomever, they are all doing a health screening questionnaire ahead of time. And I know some people were real nervous about that, like, oh, they're not going to like that.
Yeah.
And it's just 3 questions. Do you know that we have had thus far, in the 3 days that we've had to do this, we've had 5 people come forward and say, I don't know that I've been exposed, but I am working with COVID patients. And so we've made really extreme special exceptions for how we're handling our drive-up closings. It's awkward and weird, but we're doing it. We don't like doing it. We don't want to do it, but we're doing it because we recognize the importance of it. And and at first people thought that borrowers were going to freak out, and they are all being amazing. I mean,
that's where, like, that's the awesome part, that everybody's adapting.
That's the great part. Like, I've had so many, I'm doing a lot of refinance closings right now, and these people, they're being inconvenienced driving a long distance to close, but they're just so thankful that they can close.
Yeah.
So it's the humanity of it has been somewhat refreshing, I have to say. I mean, you know, that I'm wiping myself down with Clorox. You know, I wipe myself down with a Clorox wipe before I walk in my house every day. It's kind of gross, but you know.
I mean, like, along those lines though, Jay, because I know Jay's, of all of us here, you're in more houses than all of us combined probably on a normal day.
100%.
Now certainly more than obviously anybody else. So, I mean, what are you doing on your side? Because I thought I saw that you just had a training certification course for how to handle this whole situation. So what's like your new protocol on going in and out of houses from, you know, a lot of them might be vacant, but some not. And what do you have to do on your side?
Yeah. So the most important thing is obviously that we're trying to make sure that we're maintaining that distance. So there is no one else, you know, to be at the inspection. Doesn't matter from what side they are. And that includes the sellers as well, if the house is occupied. When the house is occupied, I'm doing my very best to personally reach out to the listing agent just to ask that question and say, hey, is there any concern right now whatsoever for the health of the person in the house? Have they, you know, has there been an exposure, or are they otherwise sick, or have they experienced any of the symptoms? And I kind of try to have that conversation. I don't really want to do that via email. You know, I kind of try to reach out to the listing agent on the phone and say, hey, I'm going to be there. I want you to know that we're going to do everything that we can. You know, we're going to wear a mask. We're going to be wearing gloves. Each and every time we leave a kitchen or a bathroom, we're changing those gloves, and then we're wiping things down as well. So before we leave the house, every doorknob that we touch gets hit with a Lysol wipe. You know, and then on the way out of the house, all the exterior, anything that you're going to regularly touch is getting wiped down as well. And we're doing that while we're wearing gloves and masks. So it's interesting, to say the least. You know, we're not something that we're by any means used to doing. But at the same time, when the house is empty, obviously the risk is then just a little bit lower. We don't have to, I'm not exactly worried about possibly somebody walking in and standing over my shoulder when I wasn't anticipating.
Right.
But the access through Sentry Lock, the access through Sentry Connect, getting us into the house and having things done remotely, that's fantastic because we're authorized Sentry, Lock users, and the technology again is what we're relying on. But at the same time, those basic safety measures, all we really have to do is make sure that we're wearing gloves, that we're wiping things down as much as we can. We're changing those gloves and we're washing our hands before we put another pair on. And then before we leave the house, everything gets wiped down as well. So many steps as we can take,
Right. Yeah. That's, I think.
So can I jump in on this really quick? Jay, I can get your email from Sam. One thing that we are having to do now as in-office essential workers, every morning we have to answer a 3-question questionnaire as mandated by the Oakland County Executive. And it's 3 simple questions, and I am happy to share that with you.
Sure.
We are sending that out to all parties that are participating in a closing to answer. It's just the COVID questionnaire, and they're answering it ahead of time and emailing it back, and it's going in with our file. And I'm not saying that you necessarily have to go to that extreme, but it may be something that you want to do to if you're going into a home that's occupied, it protects both sides.
Sure.
And that way, because sometimes asking those questions is a little bit awkward.
I know.
And so if you say that this is a mandate from the county executive, then it sort of off the hooks you a little bit.
Right.
And I think, of course, we're trusting people to be honest. And you can also you can answer the same questionnaire on the day you're doing that inspection, and you can email it to your listing agent, the homeowner, whomever you want. And the questions are, have you traveled outside of the country in the last 14 days? Have you been in contact with anybody that's traveled out of the country in the last, or, whatever? And then have you cared for, or are you, have you cared for somebody that has COVID, and are you symptomatic? Yeah. It's just those 3 questions. And I think, that might alleviate a little bit of that awkwardness with asking those questions.
Yeah.
So,
that's a good call. That's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, like I said, I've been kind of doing that over the phone because it's a really tough, like you said, it kind of puts us in the hook, and we're trying to be as safe, as careful as we possibly can be, but it's unprecedented, and it essentially makes it uncomfortable. And
right.
And I totally understand that we have to we got to clear that hurdle just a little bit. We got to all be willing to just be a little bit uncomfortable
100%
in the face of safety. So
100%. And I will tell you this with 100% certainty, we have not had one person refuse to sign it or one person have a problem with it. And it's almost putting people at ease a little bit. And as a closer, it's putting me at major ease because I know these questions have been asked. Not that you can guarantee people are being honest.
Right.
However, it's, at least we're doing what we can.
That's all you can do.
And real quick, just to wrap that up, guys, I'm gonna send this to Sam, but I think we've just gotten approval so that we can share our COVID-19 course with our real estate professionals that we work with on a regular basis, and this is a really great course. And it kind of adds that little bit of extra. Hey, we're COVID-19 safety certified. It is a really good informative course. So I'll make sure I get in touch with you guys so we can share that with you, and you guys can take that course and get that certificate.
No, absolutely. Even if we can't be out in the field, just to spread that knowledge for sure.
Sure.
Well, we have to help each other out. I've never, I'm only on the title side a few years, and it's so competitive, just like real estate or anything else, mortgages, but the collective effort with title companies right now, I think, is unprecedented. I think people are really working together because we're doing each other's job for the other title company. And, if we can't rise up and work together, it's, then what are we doing? And that's it at the end of the day. It doesn't matter, the political side of it or anything like
Right.
that. Just that, it's like grassroots. We got to take care of each other. And if we can
Yeah.
protect one another to the best of our ability, Jay and I are out in the field. We want to represent your clients.
Right.
Pam, I'm doing a closing for you on Tuesday. I know you can't be there, but I'm going to take care of your clients. Chase, if if I'm doing a mortgage for you, I'm going to call you afterward and say, hey, your buyers are cool. They're done. They're good. Everything's fine. And that's just that extra step that we all have to do for each other.
If one of us can't be there, we know that the other one's gonna fill our shoes and act accordingly, which is awesome. But we've got like 2.5 minutes left before it bounces us off.
Wow, it went by.
So it's going quick. I started a little early, so my bad on that. But I'd like to ask Chase on this, just as a ending kind of note, what your 2 cents are on current market conditions from the numbers side, and then what you think longer term play out could be, and what we might see afterwards.
So my gut opinion on this is Fannie and Freddie are going to do everything, the government and every lender is going to do everything in their power to keep foreclosures from happening. Mm-hmm. We're also working, and this isn't just us, I have friends all over this industry. The fundamental way banks do closings in business is going to change very rapidly in the next 60 days. I've been on 7 conference calls in the last week, even before we were on lockdown, about what are we doing about closings? Because there's so many docs that can be e-signed that investors, and we didn't know if we should or shouldn't do them that way. Fundamentally, the way mortgages are done is evolving and changing, like all things do with technology. From the way people can link their bank statements without having to send them to me, there's a lot of good stuff happening, at least in my opinion. And I think the market is going to see a lot of growth and good potential. I think you're going to have a lot of people that realize my house payment was a little more than I should have had it at before. Maybe I need to downsize. Maybe I need something a little more affordable, a little smaller. I think we're going to have a good year. I think the purchase season isn't going to start till July. I really believe that. I think this is going to definitely slow our roll, but I think we're going to have a good year still.
It's going to trickle in. It's going to trickle in.
I think so too. I think once things start to get lifted, it'll, floodgates will open up, and then everyone's back at running full speed, and hopefully even faster. So I don't think there's going to be a crash recession type of thing that there was.
No, they're not going to let foreclosures happen.
We learned too much from the last one.
Right.
Exactly.
I hope so. So no, on that note, guys, I'll thank you all. I appreciate it. Obviously stay safe, and good chatting.
Sam, let's try to do this once a week.
Yeah, I'm in if you guys are.
Great.
I'm always up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to.
And let's do it.
Sure. Sounds good, guys.
Sounds good, guys.
Have a great weekend. Stay 6 feet away
You
from
guys
me.
enjoy.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care.
Okay.
Cheers,
All right,
everyone.
thanks, guys. See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.